Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hi guys, welcome to Ukraine Updates with the Shills, where Russian propaganda gets wrecked, fascists get roasted, and freedom gets the last word. This week, Putler held its annual Victory Day Parade, or as we like to call it, the world's most expensive delusion, set to military music. It's the only country where fascists throw a parade to celebrate a victory over fascists, complete with the nuclear tantrums, a flyover of Soviet-era plumbing, and a cavalry of donkeys disguised as diplomats from the International Dictators Club. Putin wheeled out his last working tank and a guest list so tragic it made Slovakia and Serbia look like VIP. Meanwhile, Zelensky was in Kiev needing actual Western leaders, not holograms, of Stalin's approval ratings. And while the Kremlin staged a sad sequel to 1945, Ukraine dropped a drone strike that rewrote the future. Again. I'm Slavi, your co-host. Let's say hello to the host of the Shills. Hi, Dick. How's it going?
Very good indeed. That was excellent. That was that put me in the exact mood I needed to. Lots of things to cover today, so I'll let you get around the table and see who's with us.
All right, well, let me introduce to our incredible panel today, a powerhouse of lineup of creators, analysts, and truth tellers. Each one is running a channel that doesn't just cover the news. They challenge propaganda, elevate facts, and fight for Ukraine's victory in their own unique voice. So let me introduce you to Dr. McMillan. How's it going today? How are you?
I'm doing great. By way of background, I'm retired U.S. Navy commander, specialties in operational planning and operational logistics. Lived overseas for most of my life, traveling the world, India, Egypt, Japan, Turkey. So I'm pretty well versed in international affairs.
And he's bionic.
Yes, he is. He's our in-house analyst.
Two plastic knees.
All right. Well, next up, we have Rudy from Rudy Reacts.
How's it going, everybody? Yeah, my channel on YouTube is Rudy's Reaction. And yeah, just make content about Ukraine politics here in the U.S. and always making fun of the Russians pretty often. So there's a lot of things to make fun of. So anyways, yeah, glad to be here.
Amazing. Thanks so much. Next up, we have Yana. How's it going?
Good, thanks. I'm Yana. I am based in South Africa. I am one of the directors of Project Constantine, and we provide military aid to the ZSU. So yeah, happy to be here.
Great to have you here. Next up, we have Claire from Cars4Ukraine. How's it going?
I'm good, thanks, Slavi. Thanks for having me here. And I'm here, as you said, I'm from Cars4Ukraine. I'm a retired veterinarian, conservationist, and farmer, I suppose. My farm has been converted to rental apartments, which allows me to have the money to do stuff like this. And yeah, that my entire commitment now seems to be Ukraine. So here I am.
Thanks. Well, thanks for being here. And next up, we have Phil Ittner. How's it going?
Good, good. Greetings from a cold and rainy Kiev, where we've been hosting folks, but I'm sure we'll talk about that later. I'm a veteran broadcast journalist, about 25, 30 years in the industry, working for a variety of the kind of higher end, the more prominent broadcasters like CBS, CNN, Sky News, for my sins, Fox, Al Jazeera, et cetera, et cetera. Been coming to and covering Ukraine for about 25 years. Was posted to Moscow at the tail end of the Yeltsin era and the beginning of the Putin era. Was on Maidan in 2014 and promised that when the Russians, not if the Russians, came back to seize their colony, that I'd come and then try to keep things in people's minds. So that's what I'm doing. I've left the industry and I now do a show of my own called On the Edge. We put it out every Sunday. It's on its own channel, but also on my channel, Philip Ittner. And that's just one L in Philip and two T's in Ittner.
Amazing. Well, now that you heard the full panel, please make sure to subscribe to all their channels, support their work, and amplify the mission, because independent voices like these are how we win the information war. So over to you, Dick.
Well said, because it is indeed. There's quite a bit to cover. Why don't we jump right in first with the Car4Ukraine fundraiser, get a couple of updates in on how things are and what's happening, because it's the home stretch now. So here we got a little infographic up, but Claire, it's 202,000 in out of 220,000 goal. It's a little under 18,000. It's the home stretch.
It is the home stretch, isn't it, Dick? It's so exciting. When we crossed the 200,000 barrier, it was just amazing. And that was done very suddenly because of Putler's parade, basically.
Yeah.
Because everybody was streaming that day. And
hashtag donate in anger.
Just flowing in. And Laser Pig, for instance, got 10,000 in a day. I mean, it's just amazing how that all happened. And it gave people so much reason to really loathe Russia.
Yes.
Among other things. But yeah, that was very exciting. So we're now hounding you for donations. Get us there, get us to the end. I tell you what our status is. We're going to have Laser Pig will continue collecting donations slowly now. Sukamimus and Rick between them will buy another truck based on that they're going to finish their fundraisers. Sukamimus is doing 3 trucks, Rick's doing 2, so they'll definitely finish theirs. That'll be another truck, in another 10,000, say. And then we need one more 10,000 to come from the whole group. So we're looking for every channel to do their bit to try and raise us another bit. So we're hoping out of all this group, if every channel raises 500 to 1,000, then we're there. Yeah. We're done. 20 trucks. What an achievement.
Oh, yeah.
We can't celebrate yet. We're just hoping that the people watching this show might like to contribute to that.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's very exciting. And then we all take a break and then we start again. And hopefully as many as possible from this team will go again in summer. We've got a summer campaign looming. And it's just a matter of when you're in, Philip. Good on you, because I saw your little video this week. It was wonderful, your parade video. I saw Rudy I thought he was going to burn his Republican registration paper, but
You know what? I forgot it inside, and by that time, I already had everything going and everything. And I was like, God, I'm just going to do it from here.
and instead he burned his Trump hat, which it took him about half an hour to get the fires.
Yeah, it had been
but
collecting dust for a minute, but I had it around.
it was a fabulous moment, and. But I do have one complaint to make before we get off car4ukraine. I mean, last week I was promised that men would take their shirts off. It was only last week, wasn't it? I was promised they would take their shirts off, and I got up early, pre-dawn, to see bare-chested men, and it was a complete fail. They all chickened out. So I am never watching this channel again unless you donate to Cars4Ukraine.
Well, we got nipple action though.
Who from? Who did that? Missed that moment. Anyway, yeah, Cars4Ukraine, we're going for it. And the other thrilling news that we had was because we've got so many people on board at the moment, it's actually spreading, and we had our first volunteer channel. Somebody actually came forward and said, can I join your fundraiser next time?
Cool.
Isn't that exciting? So that's less work for me. I mean, if we have enough people do that, then I can go to bed again. There's Rudy burning his registration papers.
Yeah.
And
there we go.
From Costco.
Yeah, right once I lit it, it went woof.
Yeah, that was awesome. Let me just put it back because it's so cool when it catches right here.
Yeah.
Burn, baby, burn.
You should do it in slow-mo, like a slow-mo
I
video.
know.
Yeah.
I should have.
I hope there's no awning there, Rudy.
What's that again?
I hope there's no awning. It was quite a fire when it went.
No, I had one of my pugs. She was like 20 feet away, and she was staring at what I was doing. And then once it lit, she jumped like 20 feet away.
You know how sometimes there's a sign like "Don't attempt to do this at home." You should put like "Attempt to do this."
Yeah,
it's good in slow motion.
It was
yeah.
Yeah. No, we have a designated spot. So,
oh, that was
the
fun.
fire pit. So it was all good. It was fun.
Yeah. I like that very much. So, news and happenstance and so on. There's quite a few things. I would say we could probably turn to Phil. I'm pretty sure he's got something on his mind.
Sure. Yeah. As Claire mentioned, I put out a little short video about the May 9th Victory Day celebrations, because that's what they are. In Moscow, they celebrate war.
Yeah.
They wrap it up in patriotism and say that they're celebrating victory, but what they're really celebrating is the fact that they, killed a lot of people and sacrificed a lot of people, and it's this kind of fetishism of war that they do on May 9th. And I lived in Moscow, and I've seen 5 of those things in my life, firsthand. I used to live on the Ring Road in Moscow, and I lived in an area where they would do the staging, so all the tanks would roll up.
Oh wow!
And then as they were, went down in the parade, they would go down Tverskaya Street in Moscow down to Red Square. So I got to see them on the staging area. But then a couple of years, I would actually go down there and cover it for news organizations. And it always struck me as a very bizarre holiday. I mean, it's a holiday. If you hear the direct audio from President Putin as he's on the dais and people are coming up, he's saying to them, "Spraznikum, spraznikum," which in Russian is basically an abbreviation of, happy holidays. Could you imagine somebody doing that on, if you're an American, or if you have a Poppy Day for our Commonwealth watchers, saying, hey, let's celebrate this tragic event in human
Right.
history.
Yeah.
And then when I put it out, and thank you, Claire, for attaching, helping me attach it to Cars for Ukraine. But then I went and I did some filming in the studio today, and my associate brought up to me the fact that, and I didn't even know this was true. But there's a name for it in Russian, this mentality, and it's called Победа Беси, which is basically victory demon, if you do a literal translation. And it's this mentality of celebrating not the victory, not celebrating the sacrifices of the soldiers who fought in that war, but celebrating the idea of the Second World War as almost a religion, as almost
Wow.
like it's not history, it's the mythology, it's a whole cornerstone basis of your sense of identity as a Russian, and it transcends history, it transcends everything, and it becomes this almost like a cult.
Mhm.
And so at the very, I said, contrast that with what you see here in Ukraine with Volodymyr Zelensky going down to the field of flags that we have here in central Kiev and doing a very thoughtful, considered, mournful in many ways address to the people of Ukraine, to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of conflict, VE Day. It's worth noting the Ukrainians have actually switched to the 8th to mark the day,
Oh.
which is in alignment with Western allied powers. Russia does it on the 9th, and a couple of others.
Right.
And then the last point I'll make about that event, and there's so much more to talk about, obviously, but I think we have to talk about this VE Day thing. At the end of my little short that I did, where I contrast Ukraine and Russia and how they deal with the legacy of the Second World War, I added to it that it wasn't always like this in Russia, and that because the guys who actually fought the war are pretty much all gone. There's only a few, over 100-year-old veterans, kind of, and they were very young. But the guys who actually went through the war don't fetishize the war in Russia. They knew what it was like. And there's a movie that was put out by a guy who was a survivor of it was a young man, but he was a survivor of the conflict in Belarus, just north of us here in Ukraine. And he made a movie called Come and See. And if you have not seen this film,
I've seen it.
I will warn you. Yeah, it's a very difficult movie to watch. It's not a World War II, adrenaline. It's not Saving Private Ryan, which is a fine, wonderful movie.
Right.
It's not Cross of Iron. It's not all shoot 'em up and combat. It's about what happens to people in war and how devastating war is to the nature of being a human being, how devastating and crushing it is.
Right.
And so I said, Vladimir Putin and the Russian Nazi, fascists, revel in celebrating war. But the guys who actually fought that war made products that, put out art that, really, it's a tough watch, guys. It's a really good movie. Come and See. Check it out. It came out in 1985. It's all about a guy he's a young man in Belarus, and he finds a weapon, he finds a gun, and he decides to join the partisan forces fighting against the Nazis. And it's just trauma after trauma after trauma.
The thing I find most impressive about that movie is it shows not just the trauma of the Russian/Belarusian people who are suffering it. It also shows the trauma that's destroying the minds of the perpetrators. It shows the corruption of war from all sides.
Yeah, which last thing I'll say on that topic, though, is it's just in sharp contrast of the pomp and circumstance and the pageantry and the celebration that we saw in Moscow, which I just find so distasteful. So,
let's be honest.
Come and See. Is it called Come and See?
Come and See.
On YouTube,
Come and See.
as a matter of fact.
It's on YouTube. You can watch it. I warn you, Claire. It really it's a very difficult movie to watch.
Right.
It is traumatic, but it's honest. It's brutally honest.
It's one of those movies everybody should see once and then never wants to see again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my question is, given that we're seeing this every day on news, and if you're actually watching the Ukraine war, you're seeing endless people dying, dismembered, blowing their heads off, whatever. Does it still shock you? Would it still shock you? And is it still something that you think one should watch in this context?
Well, I've been in combat, and I've seen people die in combat, and it's awful. It's violent, and there's no glory to it. There's no there's no romance to it. It's ugly and mean and brutal and all the rest of it. And this is a piece of work. It is a piece of art. It's a film, so it is a construct. It's written, but it's done by guys, and this is another important point to make. The guys who had skin in the game, the guys who actually went through the Second World War, the Russians, the Soviets who went through it, they didn't glamorize it. They didn't turn it around. And it's so cynical to see Vladimir Putin calling on the current generation of Russians to follow in the footsteps of your great grandfathers who fought the great patriotic war. It's bull. It's cynical, using this legacy of this war. And so that's why I point out that movie, because that was made by people who actually knew what it was like. And it's and the commander's right. There's very little combat in it. There's no like bang bang and kind of, it's not that kind of a movie. What it is it shows you that war is this beast that just eats and eats, and it's just never full, and it just consumes. And so, to see them celebrating it and to see them using it as propaganda to send people over to Ukraine to kill Ukrainians, to me it's a very distasteful thing. But it's a even thinking about it now, it's a
Russia
tough
is
movie.
a death cult. Russia is a death cult. It's what it is.
Yeah, I don't think that the Victory Day parade started out that way. I think it was indeed, back in 46 is when the first one was held. It was a celebration of the war is over, we're victorious. You have this huge display of military might. These are the guys who did the work, etc. But then over time, it evolves into fetishizing the military. And it's also a display for the whole world to see Russia as, look at what an enormously great military power we are. We beat the Nazis. You bug us, we'll beat you too. And now it's evolved into, we're going to beat you regardless.
And I think the big thing is, if you look at, Europe says never again. And Russia says we can do it again.
Yeah.
And that tells you everything it is. It is
Well, I think Putin in his speech said that Russia's never been beaten in war. And
that is hilarious.
Yeah.
so that's what they hear and they believe.
Some Finns that might disagree with that.
Of course.
No,
And even
I think some Afghans would have something to say about that.
Right? Yeah.
That was a police act, not a war.
Well, so's Ukraine, which is interesting.
Well, if you look at the history of warfare in Russian warfare, actually, you have to go back quite some time to a place where they fought on their own and had a victory. They only ever win wars when they're in part of a coalition or an alliance.
Yeah.
So they're this mythology that they tell themselves, and part of this, this goes deep. This goes really deep into their psychology and their sense of self and their sense of identity. And it's pervasive, and it's these lies that they tell. Now, look, pretty much every country tells themselves a little bit of a mythology about the Second World War. it just is what it is, and especially as it gets farther and farther away in history. But Russia's on a whole other level, and yes, they lost a lot of people, partly because of their own incompetency and the way they fight war. But let's not forget that they rode into Berlin on Studebakers. So there's all that. They hate it when you mention that, by the way. But Slava, you're right. It's a death cult, and it's glorification of war. And I took a class in university back when I was a young man. Yes, that actually did happen at one point. I was young, and I part of our reading list was the fascist doctrine by Benito Mussolini. I mean, he's the one that wrote up what fascism is. And in part of the doctrine, he talks about how the state must always be either preparing for war or conducting war, because that always has to be a motivating factor. And I mean, literally, Russia is a fascist state.
So they're one goose step away from the OGs right now.
It's crazy because Russians, they feel like they're truly destined to beat fascists, and everybody who's against them is a fascist.
Yeah, it's a weird complexity that they accuse everybody else of what they are. But isn't that part of that denial culture that we're the good guys, therefore we've got to go and kill somebody else, and that some governments play, that Trump plays so well, that everybody else is the bad guy and we're the good guys and we're going to save the day, but we're actually the fascists in the room. But it's a weird sort of
and the victimization mentality.
Yeah,
they are literally the exact. They do everything that they accuse everybody else of doing.
Yeah,
it's one way to be
like Trump,
come out of it clean in some way. Yeah, it's really hideous. I find that whole accusing everybody else of whatever you're planning on doing. You accuse them first, and then when you do it, you say, "You see, they did it."
Yeah, yeah. Elizabeth,
people believe it. Half the world seems to believe it. Look at all,
Elizabeth in the chat says projection. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, and it's not like an LED projector. We've got the old school bulb that really heats it up.
Really.
And those of us who've actually been to a war and seen what war does want no part of it. Yeah, I mean, like if I have covered over 12 wars and conflicts, and if it wasn't for the fact that this is Ukraine, and I made promises on my Don that if I don't keep fulfilled, I'll be cursed by the witches of Ukraine, who I love dearly. But all Ukrainian women are witches. Anyhow, I promised on my Don, so I have to be here. But if I never see another war, I'm done. Stick a fork in me. I've seen enough of the true tragedy of what war looks like, and it's always old men sending young men to this romanticized idea of what war is, and there's nothing to romanticize about war. It's a terrible, destructive, just malign thing that we do to one another. And when this war is done, I'm going home, and I'm gonna sit and dip my toes in Lake Huron and drive up and down the Pacific Coast Highway. And if I never see another war, that'll be great.
Yeah.
So people who glorify war don't know what they're talking about.
Did anybody see? I think it's Anna from Kharkiv. Is it the little red-haired, feisty, really chatty girl who commentates on the war? She did a wonderful short. Well, there was a short that I saw, but she obviously did a wonderful recording of why, how Ukraine's so destroyed and so traumatized, and they're hating it so much, and it's so vile, but they don't wish it on anybody else, and why they're going to fight to the bitter end, because this has to be the end of it for them, because they've been doing this for generations. And it was such a moving, wonderful short that she did, because she can talk like nobody else can talk with such passion. And
There's
it's
Anna from Kharkiv, and then there's Anastasia Pereskova,
yeah,
who
I think
is the
that was
one
a
with
very
the
young
dyed
one. The one
hair.
that's about 21 years old. Yeah, I think that's her.
It sounds like me, like it's Anastasia. I interviewed her. She's on the
Yeah.
channel. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
great.
She's amazing, but she did an amazing reckoning of, you know, this is so awful for us that we're not going to let it happen to anyone else, and we're going to fight to the very bitter end. And I think that's what that needs to be said over and over and over, because I don't know that the world is hearing that.
Yeah.
I think everybody thinks that Ukraine's in it to win territory or something. It's actually not. It's about improving the life of the generations to come, because they've been doing this for so long.
I haven't come across people who think Ukraine is in it to win territory. What I see more is
I think a
people who
correct
say
expression
we
would be
can't.
regain territory.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. But it's like what I see more is people saying we can't stand up because it's Russia. What do you expect? It's Russia, and it's kind of this thing where I mean, I was talking to with Dick about this before the show. With India and Pakistan going at it with each other, we now know that the world has never been scared of nuclear fallout. They were just scared of Russia losing.
Yeah.
Because no one's intervening, trying to stop that. But we can't send Ukraine weapons because of Russian retaliation, and it will be a nuclear war. We can't do that. We can't send air defense. We can't condemn Russia at the UN. And there's this thing in people's minds that Russia is the super amazing, the super powerful, scary place. But so everyone's like hyping up Russia.
Yeah.
And I'm like, deal with the bully the way we have to deal with a bully. Don't be like, oh no, crap, guys, we can't get, we're so scared.
Yeah.
Because
there's a good
clearly we know,
argument for that.
we now cannot see that nuclear war is not a fear.
Yeah, well, I've been covering this region for 25 years. And, post 2014, after the Maidan, the Western powers they're like deer caught in the headlights. They're terrified of Russia. And they've absolutely, they've given in to their fear. So, yeah. And the other narrative that I do hear is that, the whole idea of the West is willing to use Ukraine as a proxy to the last Ukrainian, which really ticks me off, that narrative, because it removes agency from Ukrainians. Ukrainians aren't a colony. One thing about 2014 and Maidan was that Ukraine is no longer a colony, and the sense of colonization, in a lot of ways, was broken on Maidan in 2014. And they're not, and this is something I think Brussels and Washington need to learn just as much as Moscow, arguably. I mean, Moscow definitely has to learn it, and it has to be done through force of arms. But Brussels and Washington and London should also take note. You do not dictate to Ukraine. This is a sovereign nation. These people have agency. They know exactly why they're fighting. Nobody likes this war. Everybody wants this war to end, but they're not going to. This war isn't going to end with a capitulation or a surrender, for good reason, because they know what it is to live under Moscow's thumb. So that ticks me off. The other thing about this all these metrics about the war in Ukraine is that this argument that Ukraine, aside from, yes, you're right, the whole idea of like Russia is this inevitable like hand of God force, that's BS. That's all propaganda. But also the idea that Ukrainians don't have agency and that they're just a pawn to be used in an imperial power between East and West.
I agree, Phil, but I
strong.
think there's something else that needs to be considered, and I think it's a form of Neville Chamberlain appeasement mentality, which is, okay, we just want to quiet Russia down. They have legitimate claims, so they can have Crimea. They can have the Donbass. Just let them quiet down. Give them what they want, and they won't cause any more trouble. But history has shown repeatedly that kind of mentality results in the other guy always wanting more.
Yep.
You have to slap him in the face at some point and say, hey, no, you've got enough. Shut up and sit down.
Anybody who knows how to deal with the schoolyard bully knows. You walk right over to him, smack him one in the face, and break his fucking nose. On the
Did you do that,
spot.
Dick? Did you do that?
Every single fucking time, to be honest.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Doesn't you just love to smack their smug faces. It's just amazingly anger making.
Let's see it happen, shall we?
So that's the one.
Let me jump in here with a few super chat shout outs and whatnot. So get a round of applause in. We got SSW Custom Sewing in the chat for the Boom Boom Fund. Slava Ukraine. Thank you, everybody. And that was for nothing less than $6.66. And we've got UTV and Ham in the chat as well. $10 direct Ko-Fi donation there. Slava Ukraine. Heroam Slava. Sorry. Thank you very much there, Ham. Hope everything's well. We got super chat action. Petra Olsen in with 269 Swedish kroners. With love to Ukraine and with love thou shall be sent. White Fishy one in with a $50 direct super chat there. Hey, let's get it going. Slava Ukraine. Hero Slava. White Fishy one. Boom, boom. Fund indeed. Yvonne Way is in the super chat column as well. Make Ukraine great again. Not putrid. Oh, I like it very much. Niles G came in gifting out 10 Shills memberships. Thank you, Niles. I love Shills memberships. It really helps the channel out. And then SSW Custom Sewing's in with a super chat as well. Hop over to Slavies and say hello as well. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Awesome shout. Awesome shout. Okay, I think I'm caught up. What about Commander F-16s and parts and stuff? There's a bit to unpack there, not just the fact that America seems to be back in action since the mineral deal signing, but do you think this is a first step for more from them as well, or how do you see it all?
I think Trump and his cronies are tied in enough with the Russians that they don't want to piss them off, but at the same time, they see a benefit to themselves in continuing some level of support to Ukraine. So I think what we'll see is small stuff, parts to keep things running, ammo, some of that going on, but I don't think we're going to see any more big ticket donations coming out of the U.S. for a while.
Okay. Anybody else with thoughts here?
So, I think they'll continue intelligence sharing, which will be important.
Very much.
But I agree with the commander. I think that it's going to fall to a trend. Now we're supposed to be getting a new Patriot system. It's coming from the Israelis, and then the U.S. is going to adjust it so that it does. If it falls into Russian hands, not too many secrets will be coming out. But so a new Patriot system, that'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an interesting workaround.
Bradleys.
Yeah, it's an interesting workaround with that, because what they do is they get somebody else to give the Patriot to them, and then they're not seen as selling Patriots to Ukraine. They're selling a replacement Patriot to Israel or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Play both sides there.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just had I think myself is looking forward to a little of that pizza that I got for Felix there before the stream as well.
You have a stomach rumble.
Yeah, there was a little one there. Yeah, and I believe in the announcement there was allusions or they were alluding to the fact that there is going to be funneled from other people, but still supported by America. So, and I can see how they were going to do that. I've said it myself. I figured this was coming because that lets America spend the money in America, so to speak, but still facilitate, right?
To some extent, yes.
So
Yeah.
the American intelligence this week seemed to say that there was going to be a big hit on Kyiv, but all these world leaders are in Kyiv at the moment. How does that play out when Ukraine did
last
a
time,
parade with all the
last
leaders?
time America warned it was the Oreshnik scare. So
Yeah, it's going to be something big, but they
Yeah.
won't
Probably.
do that with all the world.
I suspect we're going to get a shellacking. I mean, starting from now, because those guys are leaving. They're not going to be here tomorrow. It's my understanding.
Right.
So
Yes, there was a recent big strike on Moscow. So
yeah, there was that.
and,
I mean,
and the
I've
Russians
seen a
will
couple.
feel compelled to retaliate.
Yeah, they could do a false flag as well. I mean, I've seen a couple of convoys or a couple of motorcades. I live very central in Kiev, and so I believe that they are leaving tonight if they have not already left. So that umbrella is gone, and
Right.
the embassy put out this thing about sometime between the 10th and the 12th is when they expect it, and I think it's entirely possible that they will. So we're kind of, I mean, all of us. I went around the corner to my little market where I get my craft beer. They got a lovely little craft beer stand, and get some good real pickles and some black bread, all the things I love here. And I was in getting a little 500 milliliter little thing of beer, craft beer, and I had a pint while I was sitting waiting for it to be pulled. And this is the bartender there, the woman who kind of runs the craft beer shop, is somebody I've known for a while, and we have a rapport. And in the bar, they were everybody was just kind of like, the Russians are going to do what the Russians are going to do, and that's kind of the mentality here in Kiev. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in the capital. We'll see what happens maybe to other cities around Ukraine. But I am basing this on anecdotal conversations. But the sense I get from people here in Kiev is that, yeah, we're gonna get hit. We're gonna get hit.
Jeez, hope not.
Right. Well, it would seem inevitable because they've moved. It's something huge coming anyway. The poor souls. But so, how do you think that works with Zelensky's May 13 ceasefire call? Do you think that's going to fly at all, or this is just like no thumbs up to that? If they fire off something big at Kyiv, do you think that's what their answer is to the ceasefire?
Yeah, once I get going, you know me, I'll keep going for a while. I'll try to keep it short. Yes. Yeah. No. Look, it's Victory Day, the Red Square, thing, and putting VE Day behind us, May 9th behind us, and it is their 3-day ceasefire, which was a sham. And Zelensky's proposal for a 30-day ceasefire, their reaction to that will be, this is your 30-day ceasefire, you know where you can stick it.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Western leaders, hey, look, I am very happy that they came. I really am. It was fantastic to see all the major European powers, the heads of state, here in Kiev today. It was a great thing. But it also means that the second they leave, the Russians are gonna, I literally think tonight, while I lie in bed, when I go to bed after this, that I might be awoken in the middle of the night, because I'm glad they were here, but it's also going to kind of, I think, provoke Putin
I
to
don't
send a
think
message.
it's necessarily provocation. I think, it's Russia's going to do what they're going to do, and at this point, they have to retaliate. It's not. Because the moment we start saying that them coming here is provocation for Russia, it opens the
You're right.
conversation to
No,
this whole
you're
war.
100%. You're 100% right. And so let me clarify what I meant by that. They will see it as a provocation, and that's a conscious decision that they will make. I am not saying I am glad that those world leaders came here. I am glad that Ukraine is doing what Ukraine is doing. I stand with the ZSU and all the rest of it. The only when I say provocation, it's Moscow deciding to let it be a provocation. So the onus is on them. The responsibility is on them.
Right.
So, no, it was not a genuine provocation.
We actually have a quick video of the leaders being in Kiev.
Yeah. Where are we here? Right here. I can show you guys. I think we even have some audio.
So we have Merz, who is the new chancellor of Germany. And then we have Macron. Then we have the UK guy, I forget his name. And then Tusk of Poland. So Tusk.
It's interesting how Macron's hanging so close to Zelensky all the time. Every photo, he's the one beside him. And just I noticed in that
They
clip,
have the best bromance.
putting his
have,
arm
like, the
around
best-
him.
And I think it's a legitimate admiration for the man, not some PR stunt. I think
Agreed.
Macron really does see Zelensky as one of the great leader figures of the age.
He is for
Yeah.
sure.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying the fact that France, the head of a semi-major power, is doing that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
I think so too. If you remember, in the beginning of invasion, Macron was very much like that towards Putin.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was just going to go over and have a chat and say, look, this is a really bad idea. It's not going to end well.
Yeah.
I remember we were joking, saying that France is going to surrender on behalf of Ukraine.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Remember?
I thought Macron might be Trudeau. He was his other bromance, wasn't it? The two young leaders together. But he is hanging very close to him in a lot of scenarios. There's always photo and Macron's right there beside him leading the thing. He set up that chat, I believe, in the Vatican with Trump, because he was there putting them together. That certainly appeared to be the case. So he's really very actively there. And I don't know whether that's coming across politically in France. You don't see. I do a post in French on X and Blue Sky every day, and German, and just to see who I can find that wants to search for that. And to do that, I look up all the trending topics in France or Germany on X, and because they publicize that. And there's not much political stuff. There's not much about Ukraine that's ever trending. So it's not like it's a big topic of their conversation. It's often football or the Pope or some other world event, a little bit on Pakistan and India this week. But
the French have so many strikes to keep up with. You can't really expect them to keep up with the war as well. They're just focused on planning the next strike.
Yeah, they're always revolting.
Yeah. They'll get those high vis vests out and get angry over, the
It was
Gonna have some snails.
Yeah, that's going on. It was particularly poignant going to the flags, I thought. Not least of which because, of course, for us here in the expat community in Ukraine, we lost someone this week, Chris Garrett, who went by the war name Swampy, who was a British EOD expert, and our paths crossed occasionally. I can't say that we were friends or really knew one another, but you know, it's always a blow when one of us, you know, pays the ultimate sacrifice. So to see them paying their respects at the flags was, you know, particularly that wound is fresh, so that was particularly poignant.
Yeah. Quick one here, but a good one. YOLO Swaggins in the chat. Slava Ukraine with a $50 direct-in donation. Woohoo! Thank you, YOLO Swaggins. Double horns for you, baby. Very cool indeed. I have to actually check something. So talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right
Claire.
back.
Claire, I met someone who has donated, is a South African, and he donated a car to Ukraine through car4ukraine. He drove from Cape Town all the way to Ukraine to bring the car himself.
About that guy. Yeah. I heard it was such an immense trip. I mean, absolutely crazy, but what a journey and what an experience for him, because just driving across Europe for me was an immense trip. But I did the trip from Johannesburg to London in the 70s in a overland old war vehicle. That it was a rite of passage that you could do if you were an Africophile like me, and it was an extraordinary experience to see the whole continent. But it's, you know, it's tough going. You've got to get across, you know, the really wet center. You've got to get across the desert where there's no roads, it's just sand, and you look for some beacon in the distance to give you direction. And it's extraordinary that he did it. Yeah.
So it was really cool. I met him because he lives in Cape Town, so I met him the other day in person. He was in Joburg. It was really cool to talk to him, and you know, he planned his trip one way, and then kind of, you know, the Sahel region is a bit of a nightmare, and there was construction going on. I don't know. To hear him tell the story is really interesting. He had to like basically drive all around, like got turned around at border posts and everything. So it was
really. Some border posts
are
not fun. When we were going from Nigeria to Niger, the border guards in Niger said they wouldn't let us progress unless we gave them a woman. And they took our passports and selected the woman that they wanted. And we just were stopped. We couldn't go anywhere. And there were 20 of us in the truck. And we all just hedged around this girl who was a Swiss girl. We were all in our 20s. It was a ludicrous situation. And, you know, they were all gunned up, and we just sat there. And after 3 days, they said, well, what about a pair of jeans then? So we gave them a pair of jeans instead of a woman. And then we went on our way. I mean, it was so bizarre. But, yeah, no, African can be a bit wild up there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so, but yeah, it was really... it was nice to see him, and he was telling us like he went with an organization. I'm like, which organization? He's like, car4ukraine. I'm like, oh, I know them. He's like, you do? I'm like, yeah. So,
fantastic. My son works for Africa Geographic as a manager, so I know a lot about what's going on in South Africa because their office is based in South Africa. But that guy that drove all that distance was incredible. Yeah. So so everybody thinks that the May 13th is not going to happen. So then Merz is going to roll out some activity, or his promised armaments, the fabulous bulls. Is that how we see this going, you guys?
At this point, honestly,
I think we'll get Taurus.
I mean, it's about time. I just found it funny when I saw you know, Ukrainian Twitter's reaction when America lost the second airplane in the Red Sea.
Oh,
just like, yeah, Slavi, did you hear they lost another one?
No,
they've lost two.
The first one was an accident.
F-16s because
F-18s
because we're too primitive
They were
and whatever.
F-18s, yeah.
But they're losing
16s are Air Force, 18s are Navy. Now, what
Was it
happened? The
due to the
first one
same
was
thing?
no, they're not. They're very different aircraft.
No,
18 was
Was it due to the same mistake?
no. The first one was an accident. The tow tractor had a malfunction and pushed it off the deck edge because the brakes on the tow tractor failed. The second one, the official explanation is that they were engaged in high-speed maneuvers trying to dodge Houthi missiles that were being fired, which to my mind leaves the question of what the hell was the aircraft carrier doing close enough to the shore that the Houthis could target it? So there's somebody out there is really making bad decisions.
I wonder who's the Minister of Defense.
Was it the Teddy Roosevelt again, or was it?
Yes, same ship.
It must.
I've been on the Roosevelt. That's crazy.
Yeah,
And it's crazy because it's also the Houthis. You know, it's I don't know. I don't. They're not. America's not fighting another country. They're fighting terrorists, and they're showing their incompetency. It's
Aren't they fighting Iran in through the Houthis? Isn't this a proxy war?
yeah.
And
The
isn't it
Iranians
about
are using the Houthis as a proxy.
I
Isn't
think
it about
they're
time the USA saw the war in Ukraine as also an Iranian proxy? Sorry, Dick.
well, the Americans are also fighting a secret war against the Kingdom of Atlantis. That's why the planes keep going into the ocean, because they need to go down and fight.
Oh my goodness.
just say like it's
Yeah.
they're from
Again.
Yemen. Yemen is the poorest country,
Mhm.
and they're losing to Yemen.
It's been torn by civil war
Could be
for
doing better.
60 years now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just love Ukraine. Whenever something like that happens, I just look at Ukrainian Twitter because spiciest takes.
Yeah, it seems
Yeah.
that no matter how poor a country is, it can still have enough money to go to war. It's just so bizarre. So, you know, all the predictions that you see about the Russian economy collapsing, which
I
we
saw
all
news.
look forward to, but it's not going to be enough to end this, because it seems that even if it's broke, it can keep fighting a war.
Yeah.
It's because they're in
I saw a
wartime.
news article
Mm.
that was done when Afghanistan was still a big hot issue. And they were going to some of the markets up in the tribal region. And they said you could buy an AK-47 for less than it cost to buy a chicken for dinner.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been there.
That lets you understand how easy it is to go to war. The international arms market is just flooded with gear if you find the right people to sell it to you.
I mean, it was so weird because yesterday was Europe Day celebrations, and I was at the European Embassy, and you know, just going around introducing myself. And the one guy made the ambassador for Somalia, and I'm like, all I know about Somalia is they have pirates. That's literally all I know about them. Pirates and poverty.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hi. And I was almost going to be like, how's the pirate situation? But I was like, that's not appropriate to discuss. But it's kind of like this thing with like, you know, we kind of, what's that?
I was just showing YOLO Swaggin something in the chat there.
Oh, okay. So it's just weird to kind of, you know,
Ask him how the
look
famine
at these countries that you
situation's
like don't know much about, but you're just like, there's war and there's fighting, you know. But yeah, it was actually a really the event was nice. It was interesting to see like Lithuania just continues to be straight up based. They actually posted on their social media. They actually posted while Ukraine is fighting, we are celebrating. Like as we're celebrating victory, let's remember that Ukraine is fighting. And I was like, wow, only embassy who said something about it. So I was like, well done, Lithuania.
And wasn't it the Lithuanians who just recently, within the last 24, 36 hours, actually, I think, went so far as to pass something in their parliament saying we will never recognize the occupied territories as Russian?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
I like that.
Gotta love
that
those
was cool.
bolts.
Yeah, man, that's
I love those
Absolutely.
backbone, right? You know?
Yeah.
The bolts and the poles really know what's going on because
Yeah.
they're right there and they know that if something happens, they're next.
Well, and they have the history.
So what
Yeah.
happened in Romania? How did they manage to slip through our fingers so quickly? They had their election, it was said to be corrupt. They had another election, it was even worse outcome. And now they're all protesting, but they don't seem to know what end is up unless they're going full Russophile. Do you think this is because they think that if they don't appease Russia, Russia will attack them? You know, do you think that's the thinking? That it's better to get along with Russia than to have to fight it?
Fuck.
I think a major part is that the Russians have been spending enormous amounts of money to influence the elections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's not anywhere near as much support for the pro-Russia party as one would think. It's that the Russian, the FSB are able to funnel enough money into candidates to make them appeal to
Mhm.
non-aware voters.
Yeah.
I'm going to say
Yeah,
Romania is very, very
they've infiltrated a lot of
important
countries.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Romania is very, very important to Ukraine because weapons go through Romania.
Yeah.
So, and this new candidate, pro-Russian prostitute candidate, he said no more weapons. I mean, there's so much he can do if he wins. No more weapons for Ukraine. He also wants Ukraine to pay back for Patriot system that Romania gave. Yeah.
Mhm.
Total Russian prostitute.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a
Very
good place.
depressing.
Yeah. Big shout out here. Stephen Wall steps up the game just a little higher with a big shout out for $66. Okay, we'll do it this way. $66.66. Into the would please somebody snipe Pootler out of existence fund. It goes. Thank you, Stephen Walsh. Big one. Round of applause for you. Let me double check around the horn here as well. We got Niles G came in gifting out more memberships. There's 10 more Shills members. Remember also, if you are the last one to be gifted a Shills membership, you get today's bar tab. So send in your name and address and I'll get that sent right out to you. Let me double check over here. I think we're good. I think we're caught up. Slavy, are you in the Discord server? We've got some questions lined up.
I can be.
All right. Yes, because we'll get to some viewer questions coming up in a second here. We've got some good ones. Does everybody have a pair of underwear ready to show the viewers? It's just one of those days. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
What did I just remembered. I think it was my first or second time on the show. Commander put his underwear on his head.
Yeah. That's where I got the idea for the tag.
Yes. And how low was the camera?
Oh, no, I was folding laundry.
Yeah.
I was folding laundry, and people said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm folding laundry." And I put the
It was really funny.
All right. Well, the first
stupid,
question.
impetuous action.
Yeah.
First question is from Tone Ottesen. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Can Phil give a shout out to Terrell Starr and tell peeps here about him?
Sure, I'm a big fan of Terrell's. He's been on my channel twice. I've been on his. He's a very experienced African American journalist who's been coming to Ukraine for years and years and years, and also to Georgia. And I only point out African American because he does base a lot of his reporting on looking at places that have been colonized by Moscow, and where Moscow has used its racialization of its population, um, you know, in contrast as to how we in America deal with race. And he's got some great insights. He talks to Ukrainian citizens of color, and he talks to guys that are over here that were students originally or whatever, came over for whatever reason and stayed. And yeah, I'm a huge fan. Terrell's a great guy. Very, very smart, very knowledgeable, and it's go check out he has a Substack called Black Diplomats, and I think he also puts it out on his YouTube channel. About well, no, it was last week's episode, actually last Sunday's episode, where we did a collaboration, and we talked about a whole range of different things. And yeah, I got all the time in the world for Terrell. So shout out completed.
I gotta say that episode was absolutely amazing. And I also have a funny story. When I was watching that episode live, it was Cinco de Mayo, and my neighbors got a mariachi band, and it was really loud. So I was watching that episode live with a live mariachi band in my head. So
yeah, I thought it was really interesting too. Great point of view. Great to hear somebody speaking about that kind of angle on everything.
Right.
Moscow does do this. I mean, Russians, ethnic European Russians, will treat like indigenous peoples out in the far, like Kamchatka, or out in Siberia, like trash, like absolute trash. If you're from the Central Asian nations, if you're from the former Soviet republics in the Caucasus, they're deeply, deeply racist in Moscow. And I mean, I tell the story in that episode that aired last week of when I used to live in Moscow. They would routinely go into a market run by Tajiks and just bust up everything, almost like clockwork. And it was just about remember your place, sort of thing. So yeah, he's got a great perspective. I recommend all of his stuff.
While we're on Phil, guys, can you please, who's watching, please subscribe to Phil's channel, like and share his absolutely wonderful episodes, because they're truly great to watch. So
you can make me blush.
And they only come out once a week, which is kind of like a breath of fresh air, because the rest of you guys are hammering us. Did you? There are so many YouTubes to watch, you get kind of overwhelmed. So you have to kind of pick and choose sometimes if you're following multiple channels like I do. It's intense. And so Philip's only comes out once a week, so it's easy to target it.
Well, we go about an hour long, and the intent, it's. I said I was blushing. Now I'm going to give myself a compliment and pat myself firmly on the back. The idea is quality over quantity. Is that we do 1 hour once a week, sit down with somebody, really go into a topic as deeply as we can. Tomorrow's episode, which I have to go and do a second round of editing on shortly here, so I'm going to have to hop off. But it's with a guy who is an SBU officer, or formerly an SBU officer, which is the Ukrainian intelligence and security agency. I give a wink and a nod because nobody ever really leaves an intelligence agency. It's not. Once you're a spy, you're always a spy. So once you're in one of these espionage groups, you kind of. But he's now a military analyst, so we talk about how things are going, big picture, on the front line, physically on the ground, and then we talk about kind of espionage, sabotage, information warfare.
Cool.
And again we go for about an hour, and we put it out every Sunday. 8 p.m. local time here in Kiev, which I think is 6 p.m. London, and this would be 1 p.m. Eastern. But yeah,
I guess
we like to spend a lot of time with things.
I guess if you want to wake up in the morning, you got to watch what questions you ask.
With an FBO officer, yeah. I don't know how much James Bond it is anymore, and how much of it is working with AI and SIGINT.
So while we're talking about SBU, the snag this week of the Hungarian spies in Ukraine seemed to be very big news. And what does that mean with that? Their story was that they were trying to learn from local people how Ukraine would react to Hungarian forces coming into Ukraine from the West. I mean, how they were going to do that, I can't figure. But that seemed to be the story they were telling. Does anybody else have any idea about what was really going on there and what it means to everything?
I think Orban legit thinks that he has claims to the Carpathia region. And there's a lot of Hungarians living in that region, but from what I understand, they're Ukrainian. But it's been a conflict zone between Ukraine and Hungary for a very long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gather so. I gather that's one of the, the Orban claims the treatment of the Hungarians is not great or something, but I think it's more like they want to bring that community, they want to own that area or something, isn't it?
Orban saying that the treatment of the Hungarians isn't great is kind of giving Putin 2014 vibes,
Yeah.
So
we don't know how Orban's treating the Hungarians either.
Yeah.
We do. Well, actually, because Orban has a hold of the Hungarian media. There's absolutely no pushback, kind of like in Russia. So all the influencers, all the media is under Orban's rule. There's absolutely all the marketing agencies, absolutely everything. So but from what I understand, the Hungarians that I've talked to, they're pretty liberal people, and I think eventually they're gonna have to fight for their liberties as well.
Yeah.
Orban.
I wonder what it will mean in the
They'll
European.
need to have their Maidan moment.
Yeah, they will. Like Georgia and things. But I wonder if it'll have any play out in the European Union to take any influence away from Orban to block things, given that this has now happened.
It should.
Yeah. A couple of shout outs to do here, everybody. So if we go over to Rudy's Car for Ukraine page, we can see we've got a couple from today on the donor wall. There's an anonymous one for $23 and then there's Yolo Swaggins in with 52.47 in euros, and then there's Paul Marchetti with 104 euros. Dedicate this to my Latvian maternal grandmother who escaped Russia with my great grandfather into China in 1923.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing the stories you get.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Wow.
That is.
And if you come over to our channel here, then you've got James Skinner, MJ Stelmach Horner, Sarah Goyes, a donation to support Ukraine, and Mitch Ashdown. And those came in on our donor wall today so far as well. So huge hearts, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
There's no doubt that donating on the donor wall gives the most direct without Dick having to lose some of your money to fees.
Well, we don't lose money that way because we use our membership money to cover those fees. So it's 1 for 1. It's however they're comfortable. It works for us. I make sure. Yeah. Let me see here. Kaltenberg in the chat with nothing less than, you can see it on the screen right below me, $500 direct donation.
No. Yay!
Oh. Boom, baby, right there. I've got some work to do after the show because I get to send some money. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Kaltenberg, extra huge shout out here. Another round of applause.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to do something in the background to see if I can't just leave that one on the screen for a bit, because I think we should all bask in its greatness. Well done. Wow.
More of that, and we can get this baby closed. We're so close to the end, really.
Totally. Let me refresh the main page for the entire thing itself.
So, did you see the photos that came in on the group, the Pasenki chat, Dick? I don't know if you can share it, from Ivan with the last truck that went out. It was the laser pig truck. It's a very big drone truck.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can share that, from Oksana. She put it in the Pasenki group chat. It's a big VW 4-wheel drive van to transport drones to the front.
Yeah, I am just getting the pictures up right now.
On you. So this is what we're paying for, a lot of these, because this Seraphims unit is really huge, active drone unit, and they're the ones that send long-distance drones over to Russia, and they need to move around the front a lot with all these very big, long-winged drones in the boot. And so they need these vans, and we've promised to give them, I can't remember how many it's on the donor page, but something like 15 of the trucks are going to Seraphims and 5 or 7 are going to the HUA unit, which is with the SBU, and with Special Forces, sorry.
That's GUR is the military intelligence.
Right. So, yeah, they're getting the pickups, and the Seraphims are mostly getting these. They're getting some pickups and mostly these wonderful big vans for them to move around. Quite interesting. Would you like me to send you a video? There was an amazing video put out by the rocket truck people. You know how you do have your Boom Boom Fund, Dick?
Yeah.
So the rocket truck people on their Facebook, the Falcons who install the rockets launchers in the back of the truck, they put out a recent video on their social media, and it had 3 cars were featured in it, and 2 of them were from Car4Ukraine, and one of them was a NAFO truck. They were all Hilux, and the donors were all YouTube channels: Ukraine Matters, Combat Vet, and Jake Bro. How's that? All in the rocket truck workshop.
Cool.
You want to show it? I can send it to you.
Sure. Yeah.
Just got to track it down. Hang on. Bring this back up. Let me do that while you chat amongst yourselves.
Sure. Slavi, any more questions you want to throw at the group here?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a bunch of more questions. Commander Macmillan, did the U.S. donate any Patriot systems to Ukraine directly at all? I read in Ukraine has only 2 of them out of action for repairs at the moment.
As far as I know, 2 U.S. Patriot systems were transferred directly. The others are all second source. So this is where it gets confusing, because for any Patriots to get transferred, the country transferring them needs to get permission from the U.S. to do so. So that's what I call a secondary transfer, and that gives the U.S., the current or previous administration, a bit of cover when it comes to how much aid they're said to be giving to Ukraine. Because if you convince Israel, for example, to transfer a Patriot system, then you can use U.S. money to give Israel a new Patriot system, and it doesn't count as the U.S. giving a Patriot system to Ukraine, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I read that the Patriot system that's coming from Israel is actually, they're still waiting for United States to approve it.
Yeah, that would not surprise me.
Yeah, last week. So quick talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have a question for Phil and Commander Macmillan. If they can comment about the elections in Romania, how likely is that George Simon will win?
Well, he's won, hasn't he?
No, I think he's still. There's a
10%.
runoff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I am not an expert on Romanian domestic politics, but what I can speak to is that, I mean, obviously, the Russian intelligence and covert operations have been
Very
working
active.
very actively, working inside Romania, inside Poland, inside Moldova, anywhere along the periphery. They're active, and even further afield. I mean, even deeper into Europe. I mean, they spend a lot of money and effort and time. And this is again the interview that we'll be releasing tomorrow, where I talked to the SBU officer about this. I mean, they know they can't win on the battlefield against us. They can't go into a direct confrontation with the West. But if they can corrupt and pollute our body politic and our civic society, whether that's press or influencers. I mean, look at tenant media in the United States. And we're losing that war badly.
Yeah, it's a
I
PR
believe.
war, and we're like unarmed almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It got
Yeah.
defunded, at least in America, it got defunded.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And we're losing that war so badly that, I mean, bringing it back to Romania, I mean, this is why they canceled the effect. The first election is because, it's information warfare. It is propaganda. It is PR, but it is also nefarious and it is malign. And there's a body count. There are actually people who die
Yeah, man.
because of the manipulation of our country's, electorate in our democracies, and they know exactly how to do it. They're deeply cynical about it. So while I'm not really deeply versed in, as I say, domestic Romanian politics, I can say with absolute assurance that the Kremlin is playing a tune, and clearly some folks are dancing to it.
Absolutely. It's really.
Yeah.
They're so far ahead with this. We're just hopeless.
I don't have a lot of tie-in. Sorry. I was going to say, I don't have a lot of tie-in with the situation in Romania either. I have a friend who's an archaeology doctorate candidate who goes every year to Romania for a couple of months to work on a dig there. And his impression is that the majority of the Romanian people are kind of left-leaning in terms of they want a liberal democracy country, et cetera, but so much effort is being pumped into murky attempts to discolor the political waters in Romania, that a lot of people are being fooled to thinking the far-right candidates or the Russian candidates are the better ones. And that's what's, I think, giving them that impetus. Yeah, it's all coming out of Russia. It's very little of it is actually organic domestic Romanian politics.
Sorry, Commander, but a wolf just walked past.
Yeah, I know.
Happens in his world. Funny that.
And that's his voice. I don't know if you heard it. It's this big dog. I mean, he's 155 pounds, and his bark is like this little squeak.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
You a husky or a Mameluke? You said he was a husky.
No, Malamute.
Malamute.
I've got one Malamute and one Malamute Husky mix.
Yeah. They got those big, huge, fluffy feet, man.
Oh, yeah.
Do you
That's
go
one of the things
swimming
you do
with
is you
them?
have to go in and trim the fur out from their toes. 'Cause
Yeah.
particularly in the house, because I've got hardwood floors.
They
If you
just
don't do that, they just slide everywhere.
Yeah. We had one as well, man. And it would be hilarious if my dad wasn't keeping up. Poor dog just couldn't get anywhere. You'd have to help him out. I was just checking over everything here. So we do have a notification in. Golby Mom came in with a Ko-fi direct donation in there. Y'all have built a great group. Keep on keeping on. I like that. Hey, thanks, Golby Mom. Thank you very much. We always try to, fill it with friends, but some information and opinions and a little bit of bullshit too, just sometimes. Thanks for the support, because we will get that in the pile as soon as the show is done. We'll go over to Slavi. I bet we've got a few more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Question for Commander and Rudy. Do U.S. citizens already notice the effects of tariffs or boycotts of U.S. products from the rest of the world? Thank you. This is from It Wasn't Me.
Yeah. My perspective, and I need to put this in perspective, is that I live on the U.S. West Coast. I'm near two major ports, Tacoma and Seattle. So we're not seeing a whole lot of impact yet. We're seeing, some scarcity of some items on the shelves. We're seeing prices on certain items going up from, what they used to be. But by and large, there hasn't been a lot of impact. I would expect, however, that in the interior states where they aren't, right near major import ports, I think they're going to be feeling it a lot more powerfully than the rest of us and sooner than the rest of us.
I'm going to say in Los Angeles and Long Beach, there's a huge port. It's been empty for the last 2 weeks. Absolutely empty.
Yeah. Well, what's happening is all the stores that were already in country are being drawn down.
Yeah.
Those haven't been exhausted yet, but once that hits, then everybody's going to see the impact dramatically.
Yeah, there was some front loading and stuff. So even though the ports aren't doing a lot of business yet, there's still stock to be dolled out in some areas, in some markets and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
sure here in the near
Rudy,
future, people are going to start seeing the effects of it, probably dramatically.
It's soon now. For sure. It's starting to hit computers and so on. Anybody trying to do a new build on a computer's feeling it already?
Yeah,
my son noted.
I had to go to Apple as soon as the whole tariff thing talk started. I got a new phone because Apple is most likely gonna put it up 1K for the phones.
Yeah.
For the iPhones.
Yeah,
Also,
my son
I'm starting
noticed.
to see the prices like on Amazon, just for like regular stuff, the prices are high.
Yep. Starting to happen up here in Canada too, because it used to be that some of the things I would order, like even just take dishwashing detergent, it would actually get shipped across the border and up to me because I'm so close to the border. It was the closest warehouse. But if I do that now, the price is just skyrocketed.
Yeah, well,
My son's looking to buy a new stove, And so he's been going around looking for them, and he said, yeah, he's noticed that the prices are every week going up significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess if you put it up in one go, everybody gets a shock and avoids your shop. But so they're putting them up gradually.
Yeah.
All from one man's stupidity.
And you'll also notice, I don't want to drag on this too much, but you'll also notice that companion products and competing models will be raising their price, whether tariffed or not, because that's the new norm. This happened before with Trump tariffs on the South Korean washing machines. Dryers went up to equal the price. Everybody else put theirs up, and this is where we are now, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I know also like small business owners, the ones that outsource where they get their products made, are struggling hard because they need to come up somewhere, find somewhere in the United States, a warehouse or where things get made, and it's just not there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going down.
Yeah.
Yeah, these tariffs were not thought out very, very well.
Not thought out at all, I don't think. It was just like, I mean, they base their decisions on what the king wants and his emotion of the moment rather than anything more.
I don't remember, but
regular
the economist that apparently Trump has become infatuated with, and he, in his book, said something about, the way to make your country more profitable and get everybody back to work is to put tariffs in place so that they can't buy foreign goods and only have to take stuff produced in your country. And so that's the genesis of the idiotic idea that he's using.
A 17-year-old who's about to drop out of school, sitting in the back of science class, huffing glue to get through, could come up with better ideas.
More grasp of economics than that idiot.
Yeah, if he isn't an agent of a foreign power, he sure acts like it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So the current thing is that he's going to change the US dollar to cryptocurrency. Do you think this is going to happen because he owns so much crypto? He's got his own crypto system going.
It makes sense. I can't see the old guard that have so many claws in the game letting that happen. But
it's the cult of Trump, right? So
that's one of the reasons they're doing these tariff things. They're trying to collapse the dollar.
Well, they are.
So that when it gets bad enough, people will look at, crypto as a valid option. Wow. It's not right now because the dollar, even with all the tariffs and everything, is still relatively strong. But if he can collapse it, which is, I think, one of the side effects he's looking for from the tariffs and all the chaos he's causing, then you have a chance to say, okay, we're going to abandon the dollar. We're going to go to crypto.
Yeah.
He has a meme coin that they set up. And that way, a lot of political, I guess, people from outside the country can pay him without any trace.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's such a grift. It's not funny.
I'm not getting Russian.
Tell me again about Hunter Biden's. Tell me again about Hunter Biden's laptop.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Hillary's fault.
Well, while we're on the Trump topic, I'll just get this one more question out of the way. Ask if this is a fair view. We have to hope the way that it was crafted, giving Trump credit for pushing a ceasefire, knowing the likely response, Trump will take Russia response personally.
We'll see.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Phil is literally like, he's like, Trump.
I mean,
we'll see. Like it's the thing. Like once you're in Ukraine, you're like, cool. Politicians can talk, but we'll see when it happens. It's really like that. And I actually find it was so funny when I was in Kiev. There was an air alert, obviously, because there's always an air alert. and it was for ballistics, but this was like in February. It was for ballistics, and I looked around me, everyone took out their phones, looked at the alert, and just went on with their day. There was like this shrug. Everyone just gave the shrug, like, well, if it happens, it happens, and just go about your day. And it's really that thing where, like, if you're in Ukraine, you're focused on going about your life, and everyone around you is going through and experiencing the same stuff you're experiencing. Like, you're all cranky because you didn't sleep well last night because there was an air alert, you know? And when you're back outside of Ukraine, you start worrying about all these things again. And then it's like, no, I was telling Halina the other day, I'm like, it's so easy in Ukraine because I have a very clear thing that I do there. But the moment you step out of it, you're hearing all this geopolitical noise, white noise, basically. But yeah.
And the other reason why I can kind of say I don't know, we'll see, is because I still think, and I tread softly here and delicately because they've done a really good job of minimalizing and ridiculing people who still think that there is something really very wrong between the Trump administration and the Kremlin. And so I don't know how Trump is going to respond to anything that Putin does because we still don't know how messed up things are when it's between those two.
Yeah, how deep,
and not just those two,
Yeah, how deep FSB claws are into Trump's
Yeah.
economic empire.
And his entire cabinet.
Yeah.
So I don't take anything for granted. And even with all of his foibles and his weaknesses, the man is clearly compromised in some way, shape, or form by Putin, even if it's just he's a fellow traveler and he sees the world the same way. I think it's far worse than that. But even that, to have that in the Oval is really bad. So I think any help that we can expect from Trump when it comes to Ukraine will be in spite of the Trump administration, not because of the Trump administration. They might get painted into a corner where they have to do something to help Ukraine, but it'll be like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
And they won't do it unless they have to.
Yeah, I figure Trump has a bottle of lube that's shaped like a Mickey in his back pocket so you can't see it. And that way Putler never has to chafe his fist when he's got his puppet out, right?
I really didn't need that image in my brain. Thank you.
No, I didn't.
Wow.
Oh my God, you're hilarious.
Sometimes you just got to cut to the chase, couple of shout outs here.
Yeah.
So now I got to do this. I got to do this in character. So we got a direct donation in from Annette on the Shills account here, $10 Ko-fi donation, and it's okay. Phil and Rudy still need to meet their $500 goal today for Car for Ukraine. So let's do this, Slava Ukraini, y'all.
That was great.
What?
I think I got that somewhat right.
What was that supposed to be, like a hick accent?
Yeah, like a southern yokel hick kind of, the kind of person that's always got mustard stained on their wife beater shirt, and the pickup truck they have never has a working exhaust system, and
you mean my neighbor? Okay.
Like a hillbilly, right? Hillbilly.
Damn right. And another one here, Steve Walsh comes in with a $20 super chat as well. And here it's for you, Commander. Commander, did you hear about the third F-18 arresting line or tow hook failure? Sounds like everyone is okay. So a third, Steve? Because I know
I only know of two, so if a third one's happened, I'm going, Yeah, some ship needs a safety stand down, like right now.
See, this is why I think there's actually a secret war against Atlantis going on, and they're just using this as an excuse to send
Let's
them
throw
down.
another one at them.
Exactly. But yeah, it's one with the tow motor, the tow thing fail, and one with the arresting strap, right?
No, it wasn't a arresting strap. It was on the deck, and they took a hard turn to avoid a missile, and it just rolled right off.
Oh.
Which is another question of why wasn't the aircraft graped down? Because when you put an aircraft in park, you've got like a dozen chains from the undercarriage gripped down to the deck, so it shouldn't be rolling off. But
Wow.
So nobody was in it?
no, nobody was in either.
Oh, that's a blessing anyway. But gee whiz, head should roll out these sort of things.
Yeah.
The elevator. Okay, yeah.
So
It still should have graped it down, but
yeah. I'll be the one to say it. I wish Atlantis well in their war. That's just
They seem to be winning.
Slavi, any more questions in the pile there we should be getting to?
Was okay, yeah, if you have more questions. Some of these are just worded really weird. So I don't know, it says by commander. Did Trump generate 300 million to pay back his loan to Deutsche Bank, and how so on 400K per year? Guess it's to you, Commander.
I know what he's talking about. I don't know what the situation is right now, but the background issue is that at some point, Deutsche Bank gave Trump a colossal loan. I don't know how much it was, but it could have been as much as $1 billion or something. And it was unsecured.
Ooh.
And the common belief is that the Deutsche Bank was put under pressure by the Russian mob and the FSB for him to get this. And so in circular logic, what it means is that much of Trump's empire is really beholden to Russian interests.
Right.
And remember, the Mueller report was not given the authorization to pursue his finances.
Right.
Exactly.
Additionally, Deutsche Bank for years, their nickname has been the Kremlin's laundromat.
Yeah.
It's well known. And look, after he burnt through bank after bank after bank in Manhattan, and guys were like, "You're toxic. We're not going to touch you." The only way he could get money was to go to Deutsche Bank.
Yeah.
It stinks. The whole thing stinks, and I'm hoping that at some point in my lifetime we'll do a proper autopsy of all of this and find out what was really going on, because there's just so much Russian corruption that is in his orbit that the fact that we don't address it more than we do is problematic.
I'm checking the time here, and we're coming really close to our ending. So I want to double check and make sure that I'm caught up on shout out stuff, and I am. Do you want to take us around, Slavi, and let everybody give themselves a self-promotion shout out and words of wisdom, or whatever the hell people want to say? I don't fucking know.
Absolutely. Let's go. Yes, Claire.
Sorry, Dick, were you ready to show that video briefly?
Oh, yes. Right. I have it queued up. This is a 1:22 video.
Sorry,
Claire, give us a little intro. Yeah, I totally forgot.
Yeah, so this is a video that was posted by the Falcons group, who do the installation of rocket launchers onto the back of Hilux vehicles. And at Christmas time, the Shills fundraised vehicles for this. ATP fundraised for it. And Ukraine Matters have fundraised for it, and they've just released a video that's really interesting in the workshop of vehicles coming out of the workshop. The commentary is all in Ukrainian, so we don't need the volume up. But the interesting thing about it is there's two cars from Car4Ukraine with the red banner there. You can see that. So that one's donated by Ukraine Aid Ops, and Ukraine Aid Ops in that fundraiser was supported by the YouTube channel Combat Veteran Reacts.
Oh, cool.
I don't
Okay.
know if you know Paul, but he's a very interesting commentator. That one behind him now is donated by Jake Bro. If you can just see, it says Bro on the top of the badge. And the one on the left is donated by Ukraine Matters. So we've got 3 YouTube channels all working to provide vehicles to these Falcons guys who put the rocket launchers on the back. So it's quite an impressive testimony to the power of the YouTube commentator that they've been able to really back up this force called the Falcons that install. They've got their camouflage over the rocket launcher there, so nobody can see that it's a rocket launcher underneath. And these cars are going out the door. And this is a video they just released. There goes Ukraine Matters. We saw the Jake Bro, and the other one was Ukraine Aid Ops, which is supported by combat veteran Paul. I don't know if anybody here follows him, but Dick, you know about him, don't you? Mm-hmm. Quite interesting guy. So it was just a really interesting video to see 3 YouTube cars, basically. And, you know, thank you to all the donors who are supporting the YouTube people, because YouTube's become a real force to reckon with. And the commentary channels are really fantastic on it. You know, so it really shows the outcome of what we're doing here. This is why we're here, right? And here goes a rocket.
Підготовка авто. Дякую спільнотам за Shills, а також ATP Geopolitics за підтримку у зборах і самому Діку та Джонатану за активну підтримку. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
За рідну неньку! Постріл! Постріл! Постріл!
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's pretty cool for a Hilux, isn't it? That comes off your farm, and, you know, it might be a 2015 Hilux and it goes over to Ukraine and they can do that with it. It's really kind of makes me feel very proud about what we're doing. That they're
Damn
doing
right.
that.
Hashtag boom boom, fellow babies. Absolutely.
An improvised BM-21.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, what do you say there, Slavy? Let's let everybody have their turn, shall we?
Absolutely. Any final thoughts, Commander Macmillan?
I don't do self-promotion. I don't have a show to promote. My only comment would be what I do every time, as you know, is urge everybody to communicate with their elected officials. We need to keep the pressure on if we want Ukraine to still get support. I realize that, yeah, from the top, we're going to get obstacles put in that place, but still, if we get enough pressure to Congress, they may be able to put something through.
Absolutely.
And also, if I could just add one quick little note to the commander's point, because it's 100% right. But if you are in a Democratic region, if your representative is a Democrat, it's still important to reach out and say, I support you, because it will give them to know that their constituents stand behind them. And will, it's not just, don't just call if you are calling to say, hey, change your position, but also call to support people who do have pro-Ukrainian positions, because it'll let them know they're on the right track. Sorry.
100%, man. 100%.
No, absolutely. This call to action is the most important thing. I get what you can do for Ukraine if you are in United States, if you're a citizen here as well. So thanks so much for that, Phil and Commander Macmillan. Next up, any final thoughts, Yana from Project Constantine? Anything
Yes.
near future?
Near future, we have a request list from hell. Actually, it's just a lot of requests that we've got from the 40s, from Vipers guys. The 67th and the Third Assault has also sent us some stuff. So that is going. So if you guys could donate, that would be great. I also have we been demonetized yet, Dick, or can I demonetize us?
We're still good, actually.
Okay. But I don't know if it's gonna, but if I have, I won't show it then. I have Pete's combat knife with me.
Where are you, puppy?
Okay.
Mm,
And it's used.
Very
Can I
good.
show it?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's his combat knife. It's used. Hasn't been cleaned, anything. Yeah. And we really need donations. So I'm going to raffle it, this combat knife, for stuff. So I'll announce the raffle in this week. It will be $10 for a raffle ticket.
And where
Yeah.
can viewers find you, Jana and Project Constantine?
On our YouTube channel, we're on Twitter, because I refuse to call it X, Instagram, Facebook, and I really need to post on Blue Sky, but I just don't get to it. Also, we have our website, and I know we have our Starlink parents who, I have your patches. I do still need to send them out, but that's going to get done this week. Yeah. So thank you. Oh, and we have a Discord server. I always forget about that one. We also have a Discord server, but there's like nothing that happens there because, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, you heard Jana. If you want to help Project Constantine, please do so. And obviously subscribe, like, and comment. Social currency is so important. And next up, we have Claire from Cars4Ukraine. Any final thoughts or future projects?
Future projects, yeah, we're going to be rolling into the summer campaign after this one's done. We give you a little break and then we roll again. We've done the patch, where the patch is a historic patch from the Podolia region, from the Middle Ages, when they were fighting against the Mongol horde for the independence of Ukraine. And it's a beautiful new patch. But we're going to stick with the theme that we're brighter and happier in our patches. I think it seems to have turned out we're quite colourful, not in the army tones at all. But I also want to just acknowledge the death of Swampy Garrett and say that was very sad. I have been reflecting a bit on why we as Westerners acknowledge these significant volunteer losses quite as much as we do. And it seems like when we're overvaluing Western volunteers over Ukrainian soldiers, but I think it's because we just don't know the Ukrainian soldiers in the same way. When someone speaks to us in our language, we recognize that and we pick up attention and we relate to it, that this person's over there doing what we feel as though we would like to do. And the fact that he lost his life clearing mines is just really, really sad. So I just want to acknowledge that. And let's get this Easter campaign done and get all these trucks to the Seraphim and is it Gur or Hur, Philip?
Gur. It would be Gur.
Hur. And we're very close to closing this campaign because, as I said, between Suchomimus and Rick, they will definitely get another 10,000, and it's only up to all the smaller channels to get 10,000, and that only means that everybody has to put in $1,000 or $500 per channel. So we'll get there.
Well, we got some updates there too, so we're almost, yeah.
Oh, we're going good.
And,
Been a good day. Thank you, everybody. And thank
can you say out loud where people can find you?
car4ukraine.com. It's car4ukraine.com. Any search of Google will put in car4ukraine and we'll come up. And
the numeral 4.
Well, yeah, it is that. But even if you write out FOR, it'll come up as car4ukraine. Yeah, it comes up with all searches.
Great.
So it's really right there at the top for Google with that. And the links have been on the chat all the way through to all the donor boxes, and you can reverse search from your link to the main website if you want to. But thank you, Shills, for having us.
Awesome.
So the reason why I'm kind of getting you guys to say it is we have a lot of listeners that are not really in the chat. So guys, whoever's listening to this, please subscribe to Cars for Ukraine. Donate if you can. Thank you so much. Next up, Phil Ittner from On the Edge podcast. Any final thoughts?
We're going to go through. I think we're going to go through a tough period here in the coming days. With May 9th behind us, with the failed negotiations that the Trump administration kind of ham-fistedly tried to get through, but we'll see how that goes. But I have a knot in my gut that tells me we're going to go through some tough times in the coming weeks. As far as my own self-promotion, I have a team of really good Ukrainian journalists working with me, and so I'm hoping that we can grow our channel, get some support there. It's just I put it out on it has its own channel, which is On the Edge, and then I also post episodes on my personal channel. And also kind of when I do, reaction videos. So it's Philip with one L and Ittner, Ittner. And if we can get more subscriptions, that would be great. And obviously, I'm also a contributor to Cars for Ukraine. So, get in there and chip in some money. That would be great. I know things are tough, but it's a worthy cause. We put out these episodes of On the Edge every Sunday at 8 p.m. As I say, tomorrow's episode is shaping up to be a good one, and I'm rushing off to go finish the second edit of it. But as I mentioned earlier, it's with a military analyst and a former SBU, which is Ukrainian intelligence officer, and we talk about a whole range of things. And I'm positive that if you tune in, you're going to learn something that you didn't know about the war previously. So.
Yeah.
I hope you'll check it out. Thank you.
Cool.
Definitely. And if I could just say, Phil was rushing off 2 hours ago.
I know.
Good on you, Philip, for staying the distance.
All right. That was well done, Phil. Thank you so much. Next up, Rudy Reacts, and we're streaming on his channel as well. So hello to streamers over there or to viewers. Any final thoughts?
No, this was a great show. Just thanks to everybody that has donated. And for those that are thinking about donating, please donate if you're able to. Obviously Ukraine deserves it. And my channel is about to hit a pretty big milestone. So definitely go over there and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And that's it for me.
There's Rudy's donor wall from today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Amazing. So well done. Dick, for the Shills, what's coming up next in our near future?
Yeah, well, I want to make sure we're caught up. So there's a little shot at our donor wall with today's donors direct in. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. When Stephen Walsh came in with that $66 direct donation in on PayPal, there was a message that I couldn't get PayPal to show me. I can see it now. And he was mentioning to Commander about the second F-18 with the arresting cable having the issue and whatnot. So we did get that talked about. So at least we didn't screw that up. Sorry, Steve. Wasn't really my fault. Trying my best here. And then we had a direct donation in here for $27, and it's I just want to read through it and see if there's a name in it, or should I use the person's name on the donation? But optimism is my byword. Even on the darkest days, I find ways to top it up by focusing on the indomitable spirit, Ukrainian spirit, the sheer humanity I see in people like Claire and Ivan from Car4Ukraine, and finally from the wonderful communities I find here on the Shills, Rick's, Mercados, JP, ATP Geopolitics, and that's just to name but a few. So a huge thanks to all, and that's Byron Green. So huge shout there, man. Awesome. Thank you so much.
So nice.
Yes. And then Jonesy came in with a $10 direct on PayPal as well. So round of applause to you both, and a little horn shot to make sure. And let me just check over here. We're good there. Over here. Steven had put it in with the super chat. Right. I knew we brought it up. So yeah, he noticed I didn't get it on the first try. Okay, thanks, Steven. Thank you. He had to fix it for me, but it was actually PayPal. Sometimes the notifications are just missing. So huge thanks to the team. We've got Annette, Shayna Caldwell, Chris Lundy, Mexi Girl, the Carpathian, Liam Wakefield, Super Chat, Matt, and they really bust their ass in the background so that we've got all this coordinated and done well. So big hearts for the mod team in the live chat, please. We've got a pub chat going live tomorrow where we'll just be hanging out and kicking it and having some fun, talking about everything under the sun, literally. And we got to give a shout out once again to Kaltenberg for that huge $500 drop, because that just puts everything over the edge and locked in and done in one shot. Wow. What do you think?
Thank you so much for donating. You guys are truly incredible. The viewers and support for Ukraine is so important right now. But sorry, Dick, I cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say, why don't you take us out and send us home with some lovely thoughts of your own?
Absolutely. Well, before we go, a huge thank you to incredible moderators across all the channels that we're streaming on. I know on channel Yurchenko, we got bot and troll attacked. So you guys did absolutely incredible. Kind of the unsung heroes, keeping the space clear, safe, and smart. And to the crew behind the scenes, you guys are absolute rock stars. And to our amazing viewers, thank you for being here, for choosing truth over apathy, and for showing up week after week. Your voice matters. Your support matters. And if you believe in democracy, in justice, in the idea that borders shouldn't be erased by invasions, then this isn't just Ukraine's fight. It's ours too. So support the channels that keep this signal strong. Subscribe, like, share, comment. And if you can, donate. Because every dollar, every show, every post, every voice is a blow against tyranny and a vote for freedom. So when you invest in Ukraine's victory, you invest in America's values as well. You invest in a world where freedom wins. So on that note, God bless America, and Slava Ukraini.
Heroam Slava.
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. That was a good one today.
It's over. Go home. Go.